would like to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by the Dolphin Wars.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to excuse me, and welcome to another episode of King Dolphin TV, the Wave Making Wednesday episode, where we bring interesting people and we interview them. I am Raymond, the author of the Dolphin Wars series of books and ruler of the best pod in YouTube. I am here. These next couple of interviews will be aviation related. Like I said, it is the weather's starting to get wonderful, and the weather's starting to get wonderful, and so people are flying more. So the next two are going to be aviation themed. To start it off, I have the pleasure of having Mr. Lee Jones, who not only represents the FAA safety team, but he's also a member of the Experimental Aircraft Association, and he's going to be talking about both of those subjects tonight. Welcome, Lee.
Thank you, Raymond. Good to be here.
Good to have you here. I am on an away mission, but I wasn't going to not have this show, so I am doing this mobily. I am simply on my iPad, so please bear with me if Gumby decides to rear its ugly head here. So before we get started with the interview, let me first say, if you're liking what we do here, please like, subscribe, and especially comment. Also, if you know people, interesting people, authors, creators, the usual things we're looking for here at King Dolphin, please let me know or have them reach out to me so we can get them on here and bring out their stories. So, without further ado, let me welcome who we have right now. First off, we have our amazing producer, Sandra. Hello, honey. And thanks for helping me out here just in case the dreaded Gumby decides to cause some issues. Also, we have the first in and the last out, Legatus Legionai. Hello, my friend. I hope you are doing well. We have Tim the Enchanter here. Yes. And we also have my favorite bear, Snortapoopas, Q-Bird. Yes, Mini Snort is at home taking a vacation tonight. But he sends his love. And so it's snortapoopasqbird.com. So welcome, everybody. I hope more people will be coming on, because this is interesting stuff here. So we shall get going. The ground rules, as usual, is I will ask Lee questions to break the ice, and then we'll open it up to the chat to ask the questions. But please, because I'm on mobile and it's kind of hard to keep track of these questions, please hold off till I give you the go for it signal, to do questions. So, without further ado, again, um, this about flying. Shouldn't those be air rules? Yes, Nort. And Legatus asks, "Can I ask a question?" And not this question either. Go go ahead, Legatus. I'll ask. You can ask a question, but you'll have to wait till we get the interview started. So, as Sandra says, buckle your seatbelt, put your tray tables in the upright position, and let's talk about flying. So, Ali, please tell us about yourself outside of flying.
Well, outside of flying, I'm retired from a couple of jobs. Retired from the hospital laboratory. I was a medical laboratory scientist for about 25 years. Worked at Washington County Hospital in Hagerstown before it became Meritus. And then, well, before that, I was fresh out of college and joined the Army and did my medical training in the Army, including some time at the CDC, a couple of courses at the CDC. And flying just became a hobby to start with. Our son was going to be going to college at WVU, and the drive from Charlestown to WVU was going to be a long trip. So I thought, well, let's learn to fly, and it kind of got out of control from that.
All right. So, how long have you been flying?
Been flying for about 30 years. Started at Hagerstown. I'd go take a flying lesson after work at the hospital, and then as I said, things got out of control. You kind of get hooked. It's an addictive hobby that has that's become a career. You just never stop learning. I'm sure Sandra can attest to that. You get hooked on the next step and the next rating, and off you go. So
Yep.
Here we are.
Yep. I started. I took the American Flyers 0 to supposedly CFI program, but never could finish the CFI part. So
that American Flyers program is pretty good. They offer a flight instructor refresher clinic that I had taken in the past. I don't have to take it so much anymore, but I do it through the Flight Services District Office and of the FAA now. But at any rate, they're a pretty good program. Everything they do seems to be pretty good. American Flyers.
Yeah. Okay. So what certificates do you have, sir?
I am a commercial single engine pilot with an instrument rating, and a flight instructor and an instrument flight instructor. And I'm now a designated pilot examiner. So I give the driving test at the end of someone's training. And I can test for sport pilot, which is the light sport airplanes, private pilot, instrument, and commercial pilots, but just single engine.
Okay. So you don't have your multi.
No.
Are you working? Who are you flying for, or are you just still just doing it for your own?
This is my own little business. It's kind of a I'm not an employee of the government, but I'm kind of what you might consider a subcontractor, a designated pilot examiner.
Okay.
Once upon a time, everybody took their test with an FAA aviation safety inspector, but the FAA is kind of short on personnel and has been for years. I only had one of my tests with an FAA employee, and that was for a flight instructor, the first flight instructor. Yeah, so it's my own business, and it's I can be as busy as I want.
True. All right. And you talked about what made you interested in flying. It started out with your getting to your son's college.
Well, that's a good excuse anyway. That was oh honey, let me take flying lessons. And yeah, we really used it as such, but as I said, it just
Buller.
blossoms into other things.
Is your wife a pilot, or she
Well,
just goes for the ride?
she was my first student, and
Oh,
she liked to look out the window and still does. So rather than being a pilot, I think she could save us if we got in trouble. But she's an avid passenger. As long as I'm not just doing takeoffs and landings, she will go anywhere to look out the window.
okay, okay. And how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching for 18 years. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. 2005, I started teaching.
wow.
Yeah. That's a long time. You're right.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, it is.
About it.
And right now, you're just concentrating. Are you currently teaching or concentrating on the DPE?
I'm concentrating on the DPE. I have a couple of folks that I'm helping with some advanced ratings, but I'm not actively teaching and not looking for students.
Okay. All
These are
right.
folks that I've taught private pilot to, and they're one of them is working on instrument, and the other one's working on commercial. But I'm not their primary instructor. I'm not.
Do you own an aircraft?
Yes, I do. We've owned a 1974 Grumman Traveler since we bought it in 1997, and
Mhm.
it's actually in the shop at Shenandoah Valley Airport now, getting some new avionics installed. I just took it down there Saturday, so
Oh, okay. Is it one of those that you kind of strap into? You strap it on you? Because I think I've flown a Grumman like that. You just strap the airplane on you and go.
yeah, you kind of do. It's got a sliding canopy, so you kind of feel like you're in an F-16. You slide that canopy back and hang your elbow out the window and just look cool to all the other guys.
Is it biplane, above wing, or
It's
high
it's a
wing or
low,
low?
it's a low wing four-seater airplane.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of that one, the Grumman.
Well, have you heard of the Tiger?
I think I have. That's a two-seater.
With the Tiger's the higher horsepower engine version of mine. So it's 4 seats and sliding canopy, and yeah,
Okay.
Tiger's a beautiful airplane.
Okay. Yeah, the Grumman I flew in was a two-seater, differential braking, and again, you just get in it. You get in it almost like you're strapping into a fighter.
Yeah, you probably flew a Yankee.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Okay. Okay. Now you belong to EAA. Can you tell us about that association?
Sure, it's the EAA is the abbreviation for the Experimental Aircraft Association. Experimental aircraft usually refers to home built, customizable, hop upable kind of airplanes, but most of us don't own and have not built an airplane. But it's a really good organization. We focus on education for both our members and for youth. It's not unlike the CAP, except for the military discipline side of it. The EAA sponsors a program called Young Eagles, and it's designed for young people between the age of 8 and 17 to give them a flight experience. And along with that flight experience, we'll take them flying. We'll let them. We'll follow them along on the controls and explain the aerodynamics. We'll explain a pre-flight inspection to them, and maybe if they live close enough, we'll try and find their house and let them take a picture of their house. But the real educational advantage of this is that when they've completed this flight, they get a logbook that includes the certificate for about a $250 online ground school, which would prepare them for the private pilot written exam. And it's a really interesting and kind of pretty ground school. The videos, there's a lot of flying pictures in it and videos, not just learning regulations by rote. It's produced and given by Sporties. Sporties is known to just about every pilot because they used to give away an airplane every year. So we all bought a pair of headsets or a ruler or a plotter so that we would get entered into the sweepstakes for the free airplane. Nobody I know ever won one, but that's because there are 500,000 pilots in the country. But EAA is a really good organization. We've probably got about 40 members in our local club, but the EAA is a national organization. It hosts the some people have heard of the Oshkosh Air Show. Been going on since 1953, and it's the biggest air show in the United States, and I think it's the busiest airspace for the last week of July in the country. And that's including Chicago and Atlanta and all those busy big airports.
Okay. They also sponsor Sun and Fun?
They are a sponsor, but not the host.
Okay.
Sun and Fun is is not really an EAA event, but it's almost. Let's put it that way. EAA is big at Sun and Fun.
Okay. Now, what differentiates the EAA from, say, AOPA?
They cooperate. It's not a competitive thing. AOPA is probably more about lobbying. They do more educational videos. There are probably more AOPA members than there are EAA members, I would guess.
Okay.
But AOPA, they have their Air Safety Foundation and they have their lobbying organization, and so they really go to bat for us pilots when it comes to airspace restrictions and taxes and so forth. They're really AOPA is big in that. EAA supports them, but it's probably not as active as a lobbying organization.
Okay. Now you gave some is the Young Eagle and the ground school discount, are those the only services that EAA provides?
No, for the builders, for folks that want to build their own airplane, and if they do, it's called an experimental airplane. And that's where the name Experimental Aircraft Association comes in. They provide counselors for folks that are getting stuck when they're building an airplane. They're experts in the field, and especially with the different types of kits that are available. We've got kits and scratch-built airplanes that live at Martinsburg.
Okay. How much? I mean, when you build an airplane, how much? Is it from the bottom up, or are there certain limits to how much you can put in and how much a company has to do?
You can build an airplane from scratch and just buy raw materials, or you can buy a kit. And the kit can be as much as 49% drilled and so forth for the rivets if it's that kind of airplane. But an airplane has to be 51% built by the individual builder to make it home built.
Okay.
And I'm not an expert on home builds. I don't have the kind of skills that it would take, or the tools, or the equipment, or the patience to build an airplane myself. So
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Now the next thing you also do, you work in the FAA safety team. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
that's right. The FAA safety team is managed by the local flight services district offices, by an actual employee of the FAA. They have a FAA safety team program manager, at least one at each of the flight services district offices throughout the country. We actually have two in the Baltimore FSDO, and that's how we refer to the flight services district office. One of them is in operations, and the other one is in airworthiness. Now, operations refers to pilots and rules and regulations for flying, and airworthiness refers to supervision of mechanics. So we're lucky to have a brand new airworthiness program manager at the Baltimore FSDO who's really active, and he's made a trip across the whole FSDO area, which runs from Petersburg, West Virginia, up to Cumberland, which is in West Virginia, and then to the Eastern Shore. So it's a big area that these folks have to cover. So those are the FAA employees. I am a volunteer on the FAA safety team, and the things that I do is present programs at our EAA meetings. I can present a program at a local airport if it's requested, or if they'll allow me to. And it's a safety. They're always safety programs. We have a safety monthly safety program that's usually 15 or 20 minutes, maybe as much as a half hour, and then safety seminars, which the AOPA participates in and the EAA participate in. And those things can be several hundred people or 5 people. Depends on their interest.
Okay. Now, do the briefings that you give, or the training that you give, count as credit for any recurrency programs such as the WINGS program?
They sure do. And we try and make sure that we offer WINGS credit when we do a program. The WINGS program is kind of interesting because a pilot has to maintain currency, and that could mean something as little as taking a flight review with a flight instructor once every 2 years, or it could mean continuing education on a continuing basis, as the WINGS program offers. The WINGS program asks that a pilot do 3, I'm going to call it hours, but 3 credits of an online program. So online education that's been approved by the FAA safety team. And then 3 flights. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean 3 hours of flying, but with an instructor. And you go over things that every pilot ought to be proficient at. And lots of people don't maintain the proficiency that they could by flying every 2 years. So it's an advantage to the pilot. It's an advantage to the flight instructor that's given the training. but its biggest deal is that it promotes safety, and we've found that folks who participate in the Wings program have reduced the accident rate. I can't give you a number. I should know it, but it's a significant reduction in the accident rate when you take into account the people that have done Wings programs.
Okay. Okay. And actually, Legatus brings up a good question, which I think we will segue to because you wanted to have me ask about this. Drones or UASs seem to be the new things in the shiny new things in the sky. Can you tell us the big concerns about this?
Yes, I'd love to. We started a little business. A farmer, a computer expert, and I started a business in 2016. We called it Agronomy Air, and we were offering aerial survey services to the farming community to identify bad spots in the crops. They'd been using satellite imagery and ultraviolet, infrared cameras to identify bad spots in a farmer's field. And so if it was a cloudy day when the satellite went over, then they wouldn't get an image that time. And it might be 2 weeks before the satellite returned to that area of the country and could image the farmer's field. So my background with that is a farmer, a computer geek, and a pilot formed a business called Agronomy Air. And in order to do that, and in order to fly as a commercial entity, I had to take training and pass a test in the Part 107. So I not only have a commercial pilot certificate for flying airplanes, I have a commercial pilot certificate for flying drones. There are lots of rules and regulations for flying drones, both recreationally and commercially. But the trouble is, people will buy a drone at Best Buy or Walmart, and you can do that. But they take it home Christmas time, they launch and go without any training whatsoever. Now, it can become a hazard to manned aircraft. The regulation says that all drones have to be registered if they weigh over more than 0.55 pounds. So more than a half a pound, the drone has to have a registration number that's issued by the FAA. I don't know a bunch of people that have done that, especially that Christmas present that appears under the tree. Another regulation says that you can't fly more than 400 feet above ground level. Okay, well, we've had incidences at Martinsburg Airport where there have been drones up to 3,000 feet. There's not a fence that limits it. There's also regulations for flying within controlled airspace, and controlled airspace is usually around airports that provide services that may run from the military to commercial airliners. So drones can be a hazard to manned aircraft. They can be a real hazard to low-flying helicopters and so forth, to crop dusters. There have been accidents where drones have run into crop dusters, run into helicopters. The regulations for flying an airplane say that we should not fly lower than 500 feet above the ground unless we're approaching to land or taking off, obviously. But the rules for drones is that we're not supposed to go above 400 feet above the ground. So that's supposed to leave a 100-foot buffer, unless the airplane is doing an approach to land, or doing crop dusting, or is a helicopter, and they can fly a little lower and do other things. They can hover. So without knowing the regulations and without having the responsibility to fly per the regulations, there's a significant hazard. And these drones are everywhere now.
Mhm.
So I am a proponent. I'm a drone lover, but I'm really careful to follow the rules, and I really encourage folks to take the new training. If you're going to be a recreational drone pilot, there's something called TRUST, and it's the recreational UAS test. And it just provides you with a certificate. And if you're flying in somebody's park, you're not allowed to fly in the national parks either. But if you're flying in a municipal park and a policeman comes up to you and says, let me see your trust certificate, you're supposed to be able to offer it to them. So there's lots of little things that folks should really do, understanding that they are flying in the national airspace system.
Mhm. Now, does Best, I don't have a drone myself, but does places like Best Buy provide, when they sell their package, saying you need to go, this is what you need to do before you can use this drone?
No, and that's part of the challenge that we have in our community, trying to get the word out. And that's why I asked that you let me discuss that today.
Oh, sure.
So it's a real easy thing to do. And Drone Zone is the FAA's little catchphrase. So you could Google that and get all the information you need about the legalities of flying a drone. And what are the consequences? There was a fella who flew a drone into an NFL playoff game into the stadium 2 years ago, I think, and that resulted in a big fine for him. It was over $10,000 fine. They were able to find out who it was, and they got him. And he may not have known the rules,
Yeah. Yeah. I know CAP is getting big into the drones, not only for STEM but also operationally, and they're starting to really emphasize that if you want to do a drone, you've got to do a a CAP Form 5 check ride for drones,
Oh,
besides taking the test.
good, good. Um, you know, they have such value in the right
Mhm.
hands. Uh,
Right.
Back in the early days of the drone, this drone licensor came about in about 2016. And soon after that licensure was established, there was a save in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is just over the border from West Virginia, where we are. And there was an elderly man who'd gotten lost in the woods, and the Loudoun County either sheriff's or fire department were able to find him using infrared technology and rescued the guy. And it was a life-threatening kind of situation because of weather and his condition, his age.
Mhm.
So really valuable, and I can see how it would be very valuable to the CAP, especially if they're on a ground mission.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We will. We we've got your websites, so we'll post at various times how we can reach EAA and or the FAA. But at this point, I want to uh, welcome the new people who came on and start having the chat ask questions. Hello to Admiral Teague. And also to Pudgy Hedgehog, who asks the famous, or should I say infamous question, what's your favorite cookie?
Oh, it'd have to be the no-bake chocolate oatmeal cookie.
No bake chocolate oatmeal cookie. All right. All right. All right. So I will start looking at Legatus says, so my model, Lego, or toy airplane does not count. No, I don't think so. But the
No,
next one,
but model airplanes do. The radio control model airplanes are considered unmanned aerial systems.
okay. In fact, that he asked right next to it, if you build a large radio controlled plane, how big can it be before these organizations' rules apply? And you've answered that by, well, what about radio controlled airplanes?
I'm not a radio control flyer. The one time I did fly a radio controlled airplane, it was with we had an EAA meeting with some young people that we'd started an aviation explorer post, and they were learning to fly, and somebody let me fly the airplane, and I flew it right into a chain link fence. So they don't let me do that. But I'm not certain, but it may be that 0.55 pounds.
Okay.
Now, there are community-based organizations and flying fields in our area, like Pegasus has a flying field in Hagerstown, and there's one in Winchester, and those are both close to the airports. So, those organizations have their own safety rules, and that's one of the things that you need to do as a recreational pilot is find an organization that you're willing to fly by their rules. And you may not have to be in the local organization. For instance, the AMA. Oh, gee, I can't think of what the abbreviation is. If you're a radio controlled pilot, you know what AMA is. If you follow their regulations and you say that that you're going to, and that satisfies the FAA. But
Okay.
yeah, radio control airplanes are included.
Okay. Admiral Teague mentions that he doesn't think you can fly drones inside New York City at all.
He's right.
Okay. Okay. So that's definitely one with a permanent TFR.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily because of the city itself. It's because of the big airports. And we've got a big Class Bravo airspace that, and in DC there are areas that you can fly, and the UAS, but there are areas that you're not allowed to, and that anything that's down to the surface for Class Bravo airspace, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Come on, guys, ask questions. And there are the two links to EAA and FAA safety.
And notice that it is .org for FAAsafety.org. It's not .gov. And that's a good resource to find drone regulations. It's a good resource just for anybody that's interested in aviation safety. There are lots of really good online programs that count towards that wings that we spoke of earlier. But they're also just kind of interesting, and we've all gotten into this YouTube mode where we get hooked on something and then redirected to something else, and that's kind of the way this is with the FAAsafety.org webinars and seminars and online courses. Oh, well, let's look at this one now. Let's look at this one now.
Yeah. Let's see. Snortopupus Cuber says the search and rescue in the Shenandoah sounds like an episode of the old JAG TV series. I bet they based the story on that. I remember that the lead character flew his old Navy trainer out that area.
Huh.
I think JAG really went out of. JAG ended before the big drone craze.
Yeah.
Yeah, because drones are really what 2000s.
Yeah, the licensure became effective in 2016. There were, obviously the TV studios were using it before that. Movie studios have been using drones for a long time, but the regulations have now, they apply to everybody.
Sanders says there's loud clicking, tapping. I don't know where it's at. I'm not clicking or tapping anything right now.
Yeah, I was hearing it too.
Yeah. Might be some bugaboos in the internet.
It's some guy with a drone that says, "Please bad drones."
Okay. Legatus asks, is it better to have smaller independent organizations helping the FAA, or should all best work as part of the FAA directly? That's a good question.
Well, that's why we volunteers, FAA safety team volunteers. There's probably 30 of us as volunteers in the Baltimore area, the Baltimore FISDA, which, as I said, includes the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia and all of Maryland. But I think to get the word out and increase safety and take some of the responsibility off of the FAA employees, it's probably better to have independent folks. I'm not sure about independent organizations, but little groups like the FAA safety team working under the direction of the FAA. They've got the resources to show what the safety problems have been for the past year, and then that becomes an issue for us to focus on for the following year.
Okay. And this is a comment from Pudgy Hedgehog. He says, Pudgy knows you need special permission to fire rockets. Otherwise, the bunnies at the FAA get very upset. Pudgy knows, nah. Yeah, rockets. How do you do it?
There are no regulations for the small A, B, and C, and D, maybe even E size rocket engines. When you get into the higher performance rockets, yes, there has to be some sort of permission. But the little Estes models and the ones that lots of us as kids and teenagers in the 60s and 70s and 80s grew up with, they're not covered on the UAS rules. I had to ask that question myself about 2 months ago. So yeah, we don't have to have permission for the little rockets, but the higher power ones that'll go up more than a couple of thousand feet. Yes, there has to be permission.
Okay. Snortopoopas asks, are antique aircraft like the like the Commemorative Air Force operates classified as experimental aircraft? I guess the reproduction warbirds are.
I think a lot of them are experimental aircraft, but I don't know if all of them have to be.
Okay. All right. And Snortopoopas says, would Snoopy's doghouse have to be registered?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Legatus asks, let's see, where is it at? Area minimum altitude, or sometimes referred to as a minimum off-route altitude, MORA.
Okay.
He's asking, I'm not sure is he asking what those mean?
Well, a minimum altitude probably doesn't mean much to us. I think the off-route altitude is an instrument flying.
That's
That's something that you'd use GPS to go direct from one area to another without having to use airways. That's more of an off-route OROCA.
yeah.
Yeah, that may be what we're referring to. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
and then minimum en route altitude may be something that they're talking about. And
Yeah.
those are instrument rules also, instrument flying rules.
Sandra asks, what is the recurrent training requirement for UASs?
There is a recurrent training, especially for the Part 107 commercial operators, and I think it's every 24 calendar months. It's if you're already a licensed manned aircraft pilot, then it's an easier thing to get that initial certificate. You don't have to go to a testing area, but there is a recurrent training requirement if you're doing commercial, if you're doing the Part 107.
Yeah. Snow to Pooper says, DC is a strange place. I agree there.
Yeah.
I think anybody. Planes landing at Reagan International.
Ray, we lost you. Sandra, you still there?
Yep, had to unmute. So let's see. Planes landing at Reagan International, and Snort stays as a Cub. He'd have to avoid the restricted airspaces. They're so close. Yeah, having flown in that SFRA place, I don't go there unless I've got an instrument flight plan. I will not fly VFR in that area.
True. It was even. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I will. I'll fly the corridor, and I have the PIN number for the DC-3, which is, I guess, is DC-2 now because we lost one of those airports. I'll fly into College Park, and it's relatively easy because you're talking to somebody, and you're essentially an instrument pilot then anyway. You're just flying low. You're down at 1,500 feet, which is, maybe 1,200 feet above the ground, which is kind of low if you're flying that VFR corridor. So flying instruments in that airspace really makes the most sense.
Yeah. I remember coming into this area, and it was still the Mickey Mouse shape.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a mess. Go ahead.
It is. I mean, it's probably the most complicated airspace in the country because we've got the Special Flight Rules area, which surrounds DC, Baltimore, and Andrews Air Force Base, and then we've got the Flight Restricted Zone, which is, I think it's 15 miles off of Reagan, the center of Reagan, and that's where that's pretty much a no-fly zone unless you have been vetted by the Transportation Security Administration and the NSA and the CIA and all you have to have your fingerprints taken and so forth. But and then you have to have specific training if you're within a 60 nautical mile radius of national, and that includes the Martinsburg area. So before a student can even solo, they have to complete an online training for the Special Flight Rules area and the Flight Restricted Zone.
Yeah,
it's complicated.
Yes, and it was worse because now it's just a big circle, But before, the 3 airports each had a FRZ around it, BWI, Dulles, and Reagan, and so it looked like a Mickey Mouse.
It did, and that's what we called it, wasn't it?
Yep, it was Mickey Mouse. It took a long time for that to get changed.
Yeah. Well, 9/11 made a lot of changes in flying all around.
That's true. That is true. Hello, John Randall. You're not late. You're here when you're supposed to be. Sandra says it's also less intimidating to have a fellow pilot talk to people rather than someone from the FAA. So true.
Well, that's true. That one of my responsibilities as an FAA safety team member and a flight instructor is if someone violates a regulation and they're kind of penitent, but they need retraining, they can ask a CFI who's a member of the FAA safety team to do the training for the FAA themselves and report to the FAA and said, "Yep, we've gone over this problem with the pilot, and they promise they're not going to do it again, and understand what they did wrong, and we've fixed it." So it's kind of a friendlier, more compassionate FAA when they use our services.
Let's see. Legatus asks, do you have lots of former retired FAA people who also work or volunteer with your groups or similar groups?
I think they've had it by the time they retire. So no, I don't know a single person in our group at the Baltimore FSDO who volunteers that's a retired or a former FAA employee. Lots of these folks are airline pilots, are flight instructors with the airlines. There's military folks who are in the Baltimore FSDO safety team. But I have a couple of friends in our EAA chapter who are current FAA employees because they're also general aviation pilots. But I don't know any safety team volunteers who have come back after a career in the FAA. I think they probably get a boat.
Okay. Snort says, "I'm glad they don't realize bears can fly. If you show me a bear that flies, I'm going to run." In fact, Snort, I do got to tell you, I think I saw one of your cousins on one of the motivation pictures today chasing a bicycle rider. Let's see. John Rendo asks, where do ultralights fall into the mix? That's a good question.
Well, yeah, it is a good question. And I'm not an expert with ultralights, but they are, I don't think they have to be registered, but they can only be a single seat if an ultralight is a 2-seater, then it falls into different regulations where it can be used as a trainer. Yeah, I'd have to dig into the regulations a little bit for ultralights, and there are regulations, but it's not a training regulation. The EAA used to have an ultralight division that they would give a quote license to an ultralight instructor. But since 2004, there's a new class of aircraft called light sport aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the 2-seater ultralights fell into that, and for to instruct or to fly a light sport aircraft, they had to have a specific license, an FAA license, not an EAA license.
Okay. The guy says he stated he was not sure what AMA stood for, so I wanted to see if that's what he was referring to. Well, guys, this is just a bunch of and acronyms for different types of altitudes.
This the AMA is a Modelers Association.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the radio control folks.
Gotcha. Okay, let's see. Oh no, here's this is a question for me or Sandra. Raymond from Pudgy Hedgehog. Raymond flies from Miami. Sandra flies from Fond du Lac. Which state did Raymond realize he left the stove on? I think Snoopy's gonna tell me. Snoopy's gonna get on the radio and bark and say it's on. Let's see. John Rendell almost saw a ultralight fall into the woods. Well, they do that. Yeah. Let's see. Snort said the last time I flew into Reagan as a passenger was 2003. The pilot got on. The pilot got on the PA and told us no one leaves their seats once we're close to the airport. We will be diverted. Ooh.
Huh.
Yeah, interesting. They probably did something wrong.
Interesting. That is interesting. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah. Sandra says, I've been part of the Baltimore FSDO since I was a ground instructor.
Sandra, were you on when on the safety team when Sandra McClure was the program manager?
I think she was.
Oh, it's easier just to answer. Yes, I was, and she actually gave me a ton of manuals when she retired.
Yeah, me too. I've got a bunch of stuff from her too. She's living in the Atlanta area now.
I'm glad she's doing well. I think about her sometimes.
Yeah, she's a good egg.
It got really, really quiet. Am I the only one still here?
I'm here.
Okay, Raymond must have gone bye-bye. So yeah, I need to update one of my courses with the safety team, but that is one of the best things I think that is out there, because you get people all the time who, if they're in trouble, they'd rather admit it.
Uh-oh, you're gone now too.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lost Sandra in the midst of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bears flying time to upgrade.
So yeah, I got my 107 certificate, and I actually have never flown a drone.
Well, we can fix that.
Honey, I went to Best Buy and I checked prices, and oh my goodness.
Well, in 254 days, 1 minute and 9 seconds, I will no longer be in command of the squadron, and maybe we can do something about actually using my drone certificate.
Yeah. Snorter Poopa says, in answer to the stove question, Snoopy will get on the radio and tell you the oven is on and he's out of cow ears. Question for Mr. Experimental Pilot Guy. Have you been to Roswell, and do you have any weather balloons?
I'll tell you what, if I did, I wouldn't let it get shot down.
Yeah.
No, but I've been to Oshkosh, and that's probably better.
Yeah. I'd like to go to Oshkosh.
Oh, you need to sometime, yeah.
Yes, honey.
This is the 70th year of the anniversary of the EAA, or at least of Oshkosh, and I'm planning on going this year.
Oh, okay.
It is my 70th year too.
Let's see. With the Legatus asks, with the increase of in extreme sports, how does skydiving and those flying suits get regulated, as they are above 1 pound?
I think they're really just considered parachutes. Um, yeah, I mean, they have to open the parachute at some point. So don't know what the regulations for a skydiver are, but there are licenses for parachute riggers. So there's a consequence for improperly rigging a parachute or packing a parachute.
Well, I think that's probably the obvious.
But I don't think there's any licensure for skydivers themselves.
Yeah, they just kind of the controller at that particular airport or whatever pretty much says, I'm doing skydiving.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, they didn't divert us. We behaved and stayed planted in our seats. They just warned us that we might be diverted if someone got up. Okay. Let's see. Hello, Myra Kitty. How are you? And welcome to the show. We are talking aviation stuff with Lee Jones from the FAA safety team. Okay, yeah, Brumby's at it again, yeah. Okay, let's see. Keep asking the questions.
So I'll jump in with a little bit of history of the Young Eagles program.
Okay.
We gave a little discussion at your all CAP meeting a couple of months ago about the advantage of getting a Young Eagles event going, and how the young people get this free ground school course. I mean, it's not just a discount; it's free. And those that are really interested in it can get to the point of taking their FAA written exam for private pilot. But the EAA started this program in 1993 with the hopes of flying a million kids by the Wright brothers anniversary in what year? 2003. Well, we made it by that December 17th, 2003 deadline, and we're still counting. So we're probably over 2 million young people between the age of 8 and 17 flown by now. And the question could be, well, is it only once that the young person can fly? Nope. They can fly as many times as they'd like to come out, and they can twist some pilot's arm into going flying. So I've flown some kids a couple of times. We have a member of our chapter who's flown over 300 missions, and that's all out of our own pockets. Fuel is not cheap, but we look for an excuse to fly and to share our experience of flying with kids, and that's one of the big motivators that we have in the EAA is educating kids and getting them involved in aviation, whether it be something simple like have a simulator for them to play on a little bit, or going flying and becoming pilots of Young Eagles themselves. And I have several examples of kids that I've flown who now are flying for the airlines.
Okay. Snorter Poopus says parachute failure is usually a one-time experience. Yeah.
Yep.
John Rendell says I can rig a parachute with an anvil. Got my license from Warner Brothers. I mean, certified by Acme.
Uh-huh.
Legatus asks, How different is it between a commercial and a recreational private pilot? Good question,
That is
guys.
a good question. A commercial pilot can conceivably charge to carry cargo or passengers. A private and a recreational pilot are not allowed to charge for their services. Now, because I'm a commercial pilot doesn't mean that I can offer my services to fly Raymond back from Miami to Martinsburg. As a matter of fact, it doesn't allow me to do that. But it allows me to fly for an organization that carries and essentially an airline charter certificate. I could work for somebody and do that, but there's lots of inspections and so forth that aren't included in my airplane, for instance. And recurrent training is not really an issue, but if you're flying as an airline pilot, there's an airline transport pilot certificate, which is a grade above commercial pilot. And that, with that, you have to have extraordinary, more advanced hours before you can get that certificate. Now, I'm way past the hours that are necessary, but I'm not an airline transport pilot. As a commercial pilot, I could fly for an organization that maybe carries cargo. Lots of commercial pilots need to build their hours to become flight instructors, and the flight instructors need to build their hours to become airline transport pilots. And they'll use, in the old days before the internet and before scanners, we used to fly checks, canceled checks from one bank to another. Used to fly cans of film, 35 millimeter film, from one airport and into the airport where Fujifilm or Kodak was developing film, and that just required a commercial pilot certificate. But the commercial pilot certificate allows you, under certain circumstances, to charge for your services, and a recreational or private pilot cannot.
I used to fly a friend's plane on occasion for Young Eagles flights at events. The EAA decided pilots had to be members to do so. I haven't done it since. That's a shame.
Well, then you need to join our chapter, Sandra.
Yeah. What he said.
My copious amounts of free time.
I know.
But those Young Eagles flights were a lot of fun. I do some CAP orientation flights, and the kids are excited to find out that their first orientation flight also counts for that Young Eagles flight to get that free ground school.
Heck yeah, that's great. And you don't have to be an active member to do that. So join back up, and we'll get you some Young Eagles forms.
Okay. So yeah, as long as I can fly someone's plane, because I don't have my own plane.
Well, you can do that orientation flight. There's no reason you couldn't do that and combine them.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm back.
Don't be keep simpering on us.
Well, when you're mobile, that's what happens. Oh, Snorter Poopa says, do it. Okay, there was. Oh, we met when we were doing the initial discussions for this show. You mentioned that EAA does provide additional scholarships. Is it strictly for the ground school, or are there other scholarships that are offered?
No, there are scholarships that will take you Well, I don't know that it'd pay for a whole private pilot's license, but the national organization offers scholarships called the Ray scholarships, and they're up to $10,000. The Hagerstown chapter of the EAA has offered several of these, has given several of these Ray scholarships, and our Martinsburg chapter is really just gearing up so that we can give scholarships, the Ray scholarships. We also have the Paul Lawson. Sandra, did you know Paul Lawson? Worked with me at Aerosmith.
I probably knew his face. I would know him if I saw him, but name's not ringing a bell.
Well, there's a scholarship in his memory that we established this past year. We've got 5 applicants for it. It's not a huge one. It's not enough to get you through a complete private pilot certificate, but anything helps because learning to fly is expensive.
Oh, it certainly
yes. Yes, it is.
Is the Ray scholarship involved with the scholarship that CAP is offering to cadets?
I can't answer that. I don't know what you all offer.
It just rings a bell. There is a scholarship. Actually, one of my students in Frederick right now, he has a full ride for his private through some scholarship program, through the Wings program. So all he had to do was finish up through his written and get his first solo done, and everything else is paid for.
That may be a Ray scholarship. I've given a couple of check rides to Ray scholars, and they've been out of Frederick and Gettysburg. So, but I think it's Ray's. I think it's the EAA scholarship.
Okay. Are they just for private pilots, or can they be used for additional ratings?
Can be used for additional ratings. At least the Paul Lawson scholarship can. As I said, we're just learning about setting up the Ray scholarship within our EAA chapter in Martinsburg.
Okay. For the Young Eagles, do you get badges and such that the Scouts and other youth organizations recognize?
Actually, if you have an aviation merit badge counselor that can do the rest of the aviation merit badge for Boy Scouts, we can be the flight portion and the pre-flight portion, the things that the aviation the aviation merit badge counselor cannot do. We participate in that quite a bit. As a matter of fact, at Martinsburg Airport, I'm going to say 2014 or 2015, they had a camporee at the airport, and we helped to award over 100 aviation merit badges over a weekend. So it was a lot of fun, and the aviation merit badge says take a flight. It doesn't say it has to be with a particular organization, but we can offer those flights and have it count as a Young Eagles flight also. Yeah, does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay. Well, any other questions out there? For Mr. Lee Jones, Sandra's going to put out the link again for reaching out to EAA. How easy is it to become a member of EAA?
It's really easy. You don't have to be a pilot. You don't have to be a builder. It's just a matter of showing an interest in aviation. And you join the national organization first, and then you find a chapter that suits you. We have a chapter in Martinsburg. There's a chapter in Winchester, and there's a very active chapter in Hagerstown. we're active and we're a lot of fun at Martinsburg, and we're trying to be a better steward to the aviation community and to the young people that we want to help learn to fly. So we're in the process of becoming a better helper to these young people that want to learn to fly, want a career in aviation, or just want to do it for fun.
Okay. What is your relationship with CAP, if there is one?
Well,
there are CAP pilots that do Young Eagles flights, but is there more of a relationship with them?
Well, we're trying to establish a better relationship with our closer relationship. We don't have a bad relationship. We just want to build a closer relationship with the CAP, and that's why it's kind of nice that Sandra's here, because Sandra and I have taught together and known each other for a long time, and it's kind of good that she's there, and I can say, hey, can we come to one of your meetings and do our spiel and offer these flights to young folks.
Okay. Pudgy's got the perfect entrance fee. Do you have the will to fly? Do you have $200 for 20 dozen cookies? You're in.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. With the emphasis on the cookies. All right.
So one good thing EAA also does is breakfast.
Yes, we do fly-ins. A lot of the chapters will have fly-ins, and that's something we're going to do too now. We're looking at getting a proper cooker so we can make pancakes and sausages and eggs. And the chapter up in Cumberland had a real good breakfast every month or so. And there's a chapter up in Pennsylvania that has an amazing facility, and they do a great Saturday morning breakfast.
Hagerstown did some for a while there, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. North says if Pudgy keeps eating all those cookies, he's going to need a bigger airplane. Yeah. Cookies do weigh things down. All right. I think at this point we're going, because I know you've got something going on at 8 o'clock. I think we will probably wrap it up. And yes, Pudgy, it is time.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Well, it sure has been fun. Thanks for inviting me, and good to talk to you, my friends.
Yes, it was good to talk to you too.
This segment is brought to you by thedolphinboys.com. It's time for show notes. It's time for show notes. It's time for show notes. With Mr. Raymond and Sandra too. It's time for show notes. Dun.
Pudgy says, do you know how hard it is to fly with Pudgy?
And I guess he disappeared again with Pudgy paws. Pudgy needs sugar. No, Pudgy, you don't need sugar. That's when Mirror Pudgy comes out, and we don't need him tonight. So Mirror Pudgy is the Mirror Universe version of Pudgy Hedgehog, and he's different. I guess Raymond has disappeared again for us. Well, he's flying back from Miami on Saturday, so he's not going to be able to do a show on Saturday. However, I think he's got a Just Cause planned for Sunday, and I have no idea who he's having on next week. So I guess it's now just me on. It's the Sandra Show. Oh no. It's scary. So anyway, guys,
I'm back.
oh, okay, because I've been trying to vamp. Lee went away, and I guess it's just you and me now.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to tell Pudgy about what I found out is a very super coffee. But I don't remember the name right now. It's obviously a Miami thing here. And I will tell you about it on Sunday. Yes, Sunday. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Lee. And there's a reason why I did the.
Well, you did what I told you.
What?
I told you to make sure I was here in case Gumpy Sembered.
Yeah.
None of your, if you made your announcement for show notes, nothing came through, so you have to announce it again.
Oh, okay. So the song didn't go?
The song went, but that was it.
Yeah. I got booed right after the song. Semper Gumby. Semper Gumby. Legata says, "Yay, it's the Sandra Show." Snowda Poopa says, "Sandra rules the universe." No, it starts with a C. I will get the name for you on Saturday. Yeah, it's pretty close, Pudgy, but I forgot the name of it. John says, "In the mirror universe, they fly submarines." Okay. Show notes. Again, this is since I'm doing mobile, I'm doing this off a piece of paper. The high tech is gone for this episode. So this Sunday, the 14th, we are going to have a special Sunday Just because I'll be coming back on Saturday late. So Sunday Just Cuz. On the 17th, a week from today, we're going to have Lynn Kaywood from the 99s to talk about this year's Air Race Classic. Where are they flying to? And to remind people what the Air Race Classic was all about, and also the 99s as a whole. On the 24th, Lenrod comes back. On the 31st, we're going to have Dr. Kat Kemmerling come on and talk about resiliency and her center and what she is doing for resiliency. So that is just, well, wait, there is something I need to add to show notes. It's a special request. Our neighbor's daughter, Gwendolyn, had an accident last night. It was a tractor trailer clobbered her car. Thank God she's all right. But I would like to get good thoughts. I would like good prayers. And if you could, please put a GH in the chat for me. And hopefully, if they're watching if they're lurking or if they're watching in the replay, they will see this and know that King Dolphin TV and the pod is sending good thoughts to Gwendolyn. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. So that is show notes. And let us close out show notes.
It's time for show notes. It's time for show notes. It's time for show notes with Mr. Raymond and Sandra too. It's time for show notes.
Done. Okay. Unfortunately, we lost Lee Jones, probably with this the Gumby Gumby deciding to attack. So we are going to just wrap it up. Wrap it up. I'll take it. Wrap it up. I'll take it. Okay. 10 points if someone, 10 cookies if someone can guess who wrote that, who sung that song. So I would like to thank everybody that came for this interview. Mr. Jones had some great stuff going on to talk about, and I enjoyed it. We got to learn about the Experimental Aircraft Association and more about the FAA, especially more about the drones. All about the drones. So, Snortopoopas enjoyed the show, finished the last bottle of Yingling, and ready for Betty Bear time. Yes, someone was singing. And yes, Pudgy, you got the cookies. Sandra will start baking them now. And night all. Yep. Okay. So we had my amazing producer, Sandra, who also helped out when Gumby decided to try and choke slam me. We had Legatus Legion I, the first one in and the last one out. We had Tim the Enchanter here. We had the awesome, the amazing, the witty, the brilliant SnortopooPusCuber.com. Mini Snort will be back next week, this coming weekend. We had Admiral Teague here. We had the amazing, hard-hitting, insightful Pudgy Hedgehog, who says, night, everyone. Thank you, Raymond and Sandra. We had John Rendell. We had Myra Kitty, meow. So, everybody who came, and please like, subscribe, and make comments. I will answer every single comment. John Rendell says Gumby attacked, but then counterattack of the killer tomatoes. All right. And there are the tomatoes. So, and a special thanks to Lee Jones for taking his time to come on and talk to the pod. And and thank you for sending the good thoughts to Gwendolyn. I'm sure she's going to appreciate it. As far as I know, from when I talked to Sandra, she's okay, and the car can always be replaced. So, so it's a good thing that she's okay. So, I'm going to bid you all a good night. I will see you all on Sunday, and I'm going to enjoy the warm weather as I continue my away mission. So you all have a good night. Oh, yes. King, go to Pop Culture Breakdown, say King Dolphin Raid, and wish Doomcock a happy birthday. So, Sandra, did you want to add anything? I hear you out there.
I miss you, and I can't wait till you come home. Love you.
Love you too, baby. Love you too. Kisses. All right, good night, everybody, and see you on Sunday. And let's continue to make some waves.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This segment is brought to you by TheDolphinWars.com.